And this is how Dr. Hedgewar was involved and associated with the freedom movement. But one thing he found during the jail period of himself and also in the struggle, that slowly after 1905, there have been certain elements in our national movement. Slowly there may be some division. And also he found that today we will fight and tomorrow the British will go away and the country will become free sooner or later. But what will happen later on? For the long struggle that we have engaged ourselves in for the liberation of this country for nearly 1,000 years, struggle and struggle. And many of the qualities as human beings, as patriots, as citizens, they are essential. And those qualities to be instilled, which he called Vyakti Nirman, or man-making in the words of Swami Vivekananda. So this man-making is important. And another thing is a strong organization is important. Although India had this ancient history, a long-standing civilizational values, wonderful things, made many contributions to the humanity. With all these things, why we had to suffer under the foreign yoke? We were not weak, we are not downtrodden people, we were a great civilization, yet we had to suffer the ignominy of foreign rule. That is because he said there are three doshas, that is three weaknesses of our society. One, we are disorganized. In the name of many vociferous tendencies like language, caste, etc., we are disorganized people. So that British, as we all know, divide and rule, they could do it. Another thing is absence of self-respect. Down the line, this country thought that people who are ruling us, they are better in many things, and we are not up to the mark. So the self-respect of our nation, self-respect of our people, that was starkly absent. And the third thing he said, another is self-centered. Even during the freedom movement, he experienced that many people, for their selfish interests, many a time they have gone astray. When he experienced all these things, he thought that Vyakti Nirman, that is man-making, character building, is an essential thing for nation building, number one. And a strong organized society, as we can see in many European countries or Japan and many others, a strong society, well knit. And this is the guarantee for freedom that is we are going to achieve. So that's why, while he was in Congress, he thought that he should engage himself in organizing the young people. That's why, along with the freedom movement activities, he participated in this. And Mahatma Gandhiji asked him, when Dr. Hedgewar met Mahatma Gandhiji in Nagpur, Mahatma Gandhiji asked why you could not do this being within Congress. He said it was not possible for me because Congress is taking a political movement. I want to do it as a socio-cultural movement. So that's why they cannot go together. That's why I had to do it separately. So this he clearly mentioned to Mahatma Gandhiji. This is how the RSS was founded.
Dattatreya, so let us come to the situation post-independence. These deficiencies which the founder of the RSS had identified in the Bharatiya Samaj, as it were. What happened post-independence? And also I want your view on the Indian state as it has emerged after independence, our constitution, the institutions that have evolved, and the democratic model that we have adopted.
Your question is over?
Yeah.
Very good. This is exactly the thing. So what happened in the post-independence? One thing is, no doubt, the great heroes and great personalities during the freedom struggle, they inspired thousands and thousands of our young men throughout the length and breadth of this country. And that is why many youngsters, they gave up their lives for the cause of freedom. But in the immediate aftermath of the freedom, there are some folly or shortcoming. We were as a nation and also the government, instead of instilling these qualities, the values of freedom struggle, there was country was no doubt the rebuilding on the economic activities, the education, universities, factories, many came up. No doubt, they are very essential, welcome things. But the Tridosha, that was not addressed properly. For that, a proper education system was necessary. Public life should have been exemplary, and we should have addressed all these things with special reference to our cultural heritage and civilizational roots. Somehow in post-independence, these things were not taken as the inspirational things, civilizational roots and cultural heritage. Somehow our leadership felt that these things are not of great importance. That's why in the name of secularism and others, in our spirit to become a modern nation, we thought all these things are old ideas. That's why we should become modern, we should become international, we should become secular. These new things were instilled into our nation's psyche. So that's why those three doshas were not fully addressed. Partially they might have been, I do not dispute. And as far as the constitution is concerned, the great minds of our nation, the founding fathers of our constitution, they have definitely identified these things. See, the very first copy of the constitution has many wonderful pictures and drawings by our great artists. And those pictures and drawings, they are all pointing to the great heritage of our country. There is Valmiki, there is Srinam, there is Sri Krishna, there is Shivaji. Why these things were mentioned? They were printed in the Constitution's original copy. Words were there already. The Constitution had words. The spirit behind those words were represented by these pictures. So that means the founding fathers with the Constitution, they were very clear in their minds that these things should be instilled in the upcoming generation. So that's why our Constitution, as Sri Mohan Bhagwatji, the chief of RSS, has again and again repeatedly, he has mentioned that the Constitution of our country, it reflects the emotional, cultural personality of our country. But the thing is, in implementing those things, Constitution spirit, the government mechanism and the governance, and the policies that were to flow from the spirit of the Constitution, there was some missing link. So because of these things, we have not been able to do it effectively, completely, wholly.
Sir, I'll now take you to the emergency and the role of the RSS at that time. You see, after Indira Gandhi imposed a dictatorship, which went on for 19 months, I found that a large number of members of the RSS, you included, you protested against the emergency, against the loss of democracy and democratic values. And I remember reading a document, a government document, which said there were 3,255 members of the RSS who were in prison under MISA.
Yeah.
So, so all of you went to jail and so on. So, what was the thinking in the RSS at that time? What was the principle that was guiding you in the actions you took at that time?
I was a student in Bangalore University during those days, and because I was an activist and Akhil Bharati Vidyarthi Parichay, which became a part and parcel of the Vidyarthi Yuvajana Sangharsha Samiti, started or launched by Lok Nayak Jayaprakash Narayan in Bihar. Actually, the movement of many of the people who are present here must be knowing the origins of the emergency movement. Before emergency, there was an agitation which became a statewide student agitation in Gujarat against price rise. And the Gujarat's chief minister was deposed because of the student agitation in those days. And taking the spirit, taking inspiration of the Gujarat success, there was a movement or an agitation started by the university students. And the present Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar, Sri Sushil Modi, was the General Secretary of the Student Union of Bihar, Patna University, and many others, Ram Bahadur Rai, Govindacharya, and many, they participated because they were all in ABVP. And along with that, Tarun Shanti Sena and Sarvodaya people, they all came together. And a common platform was prepared, requested Lok Nayak Jayaprakash Narayan to lead this. And JP put two conditions. One, it should not be only a political movement, and second, it should be totally non-violent. The student leaders agreed, and it became so. And later on, of course, political parties joined with the permission of Jayaprakash Narayan and others. And this carried on the movement, and then Janata Sangharsha Samiti for the elders was also started. So this is how the four major things were addressed: price rise, unemployment, corruption, and bad governance. So these issues were addressed. JP toured the whole country. As you said, in 1975 on 25th, 26th midnight of June, the emergency was clamped. I do not want to go into the background of all these things for the sake of many people know. Now, how RSS was involved. I distinctly remember during the 1974 movement, when in Bihar the movement was going on, in the Pratinidhi Sabha of RSS, Govindacharya is one of the representatives from Bihar. He explained the situation in Bihar, how this movement is picking up. Later on, it was considered that this is a movement led by Jayaprakash Narayan, and student and youth are there. Sangha Swayamsevaks also participated, like me, thousands in ABVP, or Bharati Mazdoor Sangh, many people, they participated. So a detailed account of this was given in the Pratinidhi Sabha. And later on, these organizations had taken their decision to participate. Later on, the RSS Swayamsevaks were given the freedom. If they want to join, they can, because in the interest of the nation, because of these four major issues which I mentioned, everybody in early 70s, after 1972, after the Srimati Indira Gandhi took, she was elected again. She had lost on three fronts. One, in the court, her election became null and void. She was unseated. Second, Congress lost in Gujarat elections. Third, there was a nationwide people's movement. So when this was coming up, emergency was clamped and the fundamental rights were suspended. Many organizations, including RSS, were banned. Jayaprakash Narayan like persons, they were all put behind bars. Members of the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha were kept behind bars. So because of these things, naturally, in order to protect, save democracy and constitution, the Sangha Swayam Sevaks participated, RSS went into this movement and it became the RSS office bearers became the part and parcel of Lok Sangharsh Samiti. As you rightly said, in November 1975, after 4 months of preparation, because underground movement in those days, the present generation cannot imagine, think of how things were there in those days. So because there was no social media, there was no communication channel, there was nothing, people have to meet personally. There are not even copying machines, we should understand. If you have to copy the things, you have to write on the cyclostering. So I want to tell this to the present generation, how are things then? But there was a strong network was created because of the RSS. I remember George Fernandez, Ravindra Verma, and many others who came, Thakur Das Band, or Radhakrishna and Jayaprakash Narayan, who toured because I was in Karnataka and Bangalore. I remember, and this was the case everywhere. This underground movement network was well managed by the RSS network. That is the history everybody knows. And because of this, many people have mentioned in the post-emergency period, many books have mentioned how RSS played the role in running the underground movement very successfully.
Yeah.
And as you said, thousands offered satyagraha, thousands were without satyagraha were also picked up, nabbed from their places. So RSS participated in a historic movement for saving democracy and constitution of our country. And many people have written, although I do not consider that word as very proper word for the RSS, said it is the single most right-wing movement which led a great revolution for saving democracy. I do not consider RSS as right movement, but it is how they have said. That's why I'm mentioning.
So, Dattatreya ji, the way the RSS decide to fight the emergency, it established the Sangh's commitment to the core values in our constitution and to our democratic way of life. So I presume that is what it is, and over the years that has got reinforced. Is that correct?
Very nice, very correct. Because the slogan in those days, I remember, then Gandhiji and now JP. This is how we called. You know, in Kannada we said Andu Gandhi, Indu JP. Tab Gandhi, ab JP. Second thing, we said if saying truth is an offense, then I will declare the truth. This was the badge we were wearing. And as you rightly put it, core democratic values that are enshrined in our constitution, and they are enshrined in our constitution because it is the DNA of our nation. Because of these democratic values and institutions, the RSS wanted to protect these things. That's why when the government, particularly the Prime Minister then, they accused Jayaprakash Narayan, Balasaheb Devaras wrote to her that Jayaprakash Narayan is a great patriot. You should not abuse him in such words.
Yes.
So this is how the RSS wanted to protect democracy and also to protect the prestige of the national leaders, protect their lives. So this is how RSS played a role in re-establishing and restoring democracy.
And the RSS remains committed to that. The core
Very
values in the constitution are inviolable.
Very much. Very much.
Democracy, there is nothing better than democracy.
Today morning's speech
Yeah.
by Mohan Bhagavat ji,
I heard
At
the
least-
Sarsang Chalak. sir.
at least 2 times he mentioned the constitution.
Yes. I heard him. Sir, I'll now draw you to another area of work, especially many areas of work as far as RSS is concerned, tribal welfare, scheduled castes, weaker sections in the area of education and so on. So over these 95 years, you've built, a whole lot of institutions which are doing work in various areas, especially, looking at the underprivileged, the tribal population in the country and so on. What have you achieved until now? And in terms of your achievement, how do you see that?
Actually, as an RSS man, I should not say what RSS has achieved because that is nothing, because it's our duty, we have to
Yeah.
do that. However, because RSS doesn't want the appreciation or certificate or awards, in any case, as the Rashtra Dharma and the duty to nation, RSS themselves have been doing it. Fine. There are slums in the cities, which we call Seva Bastis, we don't call them slums in RSS. And the tribal areas in many parts of the country, thousands of our workers, many of them are full-time workers, many have remained bachelors for whole life, many, the couples are full-time workers, they are working in remote areas of tribal areas, in tribal villages, border areas, hill areas, and also in cities and towns where there is a need for providing the basic needs, education, health, self-employment, etc. Number one. Number two, some inculcating basic values of life. These are the essential things that which we call sanskaras, and also creating a confidence in them that we are also part and parcel of this society. We can also contribute for the nation. It is not just sympathy that you should do and philanthropy. You should make them that they are also responsible citizens of this nation. For that, first, they have to stand on their own feet. That is why the physical requirements, needs for their physical life, worldly life, they have to be provided. That is the duty of the society. So RSS considers them as part and parcel of nation building activity. So that's why they will have to be empowered.
Yeah.
And their needs have to be taken care of. So that's why we address to them. And fortunately, many youngsters, hundreds, they are coming out. Doctors, engineers, graduates, they have given their major part of their lives for this work. Today, around 1.3 lakh, small or big, Seva Karya is going on. It may be a Sanskar Kendra, it may be Yoga Center, it may be schools, it may be Ekal Vidyalaya, it may be big hospital. Apart from the work that RSS does during the natural calamities like earthquake, floods, etc. I am telling round the year, the work that goes on, all not in the name of RSS, because RSS doesn't put RSS name on the service projects. The local committee is there, various organizations like Seva Bharati, Vanvas Kalyana Ashram, but every one of them is inspired by the RSS thoughts, RSS inspiration is there, and RSS workers, because of the training and motivation, they go and take up the work. Now, having said this, there are areas like rural development, education, health, employment generation, women empowerment, and the Dalit section, the scheduled caste section, they have to be empowered. There is two things. There are two things. One is their worldly needs, and another is social harmony, social justice. The RSS, when it started its Seva Karya with an institutional model, we addressed these. that social harmony, social justice should be established in our society. For this, if Seva Karya is required, wherever, we should do it because they go hand in hand. Without the worldly needs addressed enough, you cannot achieve social justice and social equality.
Sir, you just referred to women's empowerment. Are you committed to a greater role for women in nation building? And if so, how is it reflected in your policies?
What I don't know why should I say I committed? This nation, any society, without the half of its population,
Yeah.
how can any nation make progress? Once Sri Mohan Bhagwat ji, RSS chief, he answered one question by somebody, some journalist or somebody. He said RSS, as many number of people who are in RSS, so many member of women folk are also part and parcel of the Sangha movement. Because just now I said about the service activity, Seva Karya. In all the Seva Karya, women are there. And empowerment of women, social, political, cultural, economic empowerment. These are the essential things because in Hindu society, from time immemorial, our women folk, sisters, mothers, they have played this role in their homes and hearts, in the fields, and even in the battlefields. So that's why women empowerment is not something that we have to inject by the men folk. It is already there. As Vivekananda once said, you provide them education, don't teach them. You need not do any Mahila Uddhar. They will do on their own. But you give them the opportunity at least. RSS is committed to this.
I have another question for you concerning women. Sir, crimes against women has reached it's just alarming now. The number of rape cases you read about and hear on a daily basis. So, what is your view? What is to be done to eliminate this problem? And what is it? Do you recommend stricter punishment or what? How do you people view this?
Once Atalji said for the rape offenders, there should be capital punishment. This is what once Atalji publicly declared.
Yeah.
Thing is, this news of rape, very unfortunate. Such incidents happening in our society is really shameful. Not only shameful, it pains. It pains to the core. How can you show our faces to women folk if such things are repeated? But one thing, somebody has to make a study, a research, whether all the things what are happening, they are reported, the truth also should be there. I don't dispute that there are rapes. Unfortunately, the women folk have to live in fear. It is a bad certificate for the men. We should understand this.
Yeah.
So that's why a fearless society for women. I am not telling only equality. They should enjoy this, that there is no fear at any time of the day or night.
Security.
An ideal society has to be created. Now the thing is about rape. One professor has studied from Gujarat, and he has written an article which is published in New York Times with the facts and figures. It is not that only in India it's happening, but whatever it is, whether India is rape capital or not, this accusation, I don't agree with that. However, any rape incident, even one incident, is a shameful thing. Now the thing is, what can be done? See, one thing is the criminal procedures and rules, etc., regulations, administrative mechanism, they should become stricter. There should be stricter rules. The administration should be more alert. All these things are essential for in any civilized society. We have to demand from the government that they have to take immediate actions, effective actions, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And if there is any need for better rules in order to achieve this, and they should be framed. But having said this, I would like to add one more very important thing. That's why how our society behaves at the family level. Whether we teach our youngsters to respect women, what does it mean to respect women, how to behave with women in neighborhoods, in colonies, in workplaces, in travels. So these are the areas we have to educate our youngsters and our people. Then our media has to play a very, very positive role. Unfortunately, at least some section of the media is not playing prominent, proper role in this, particularly our entertainment industry. And then, because of a lot of other, in the name of modernism, many a time, licentiousness, promiscuity is being promoted subtle way or very overtly. So these things are the things which create a system, an environment where youngsters and people get into these things. So that's why on one side, the administration, law mechanism, etc., police is necessary. We have to take stricter actions. But more importantly, behaving with women, how to view our women folk in families, neighborhoods, workplaces, etc. This has to be properly, nationwide education is required.
Yeah.
So I think this will address the issue effectively.
Dattatreya ji, I'll bring you back to an aspect of the Constitution. Pluralism is central to our democratic existence. And that's also the constitutional mandate, that we build and nurture a pluralistic society. So what is the RSS view on this?
Again, I would like to mention today's morning's address by Mohan Bhagwat ji. You said pluralism, he used the word diversity. The diversity should not lead to separateness. The distinct...
Separatism.
Yeah, separatism. The separatism in the name of diversity is dangerous for the nation's unity and future and destiny. But at the same time, the diversities, distinct identities are to be there because we are a society, a 5,000-year-old civilization. There will be diversities and pluralism is there. Many religions within this country, India-born religions and India imported religions, all these religions have to live together. And that guarantee is possible when everybody has, apart from their Vyakti Dharma, Rashtra Dharma as the supreme thing. Because nation and constitution, if that is the overarching Dharma, then all other identities will have to be under that. If we are growing beyond that, then the problem starts. That's why we have to learn to live together. And this country, Hindutva, here the Hindutva comes. I would like to mention, underline. Here, Shaiva, Vaishnava, Ganapatya, Shakta, Jaina, Bauddha, Sikha, everybody has lived for hundreds and thousands of years. I come from Karnataka. The Hampi, you are also from Karnataka. Vijayanagara Empire, they have created the logo of this kind. And many kings and their vice queens, they were pursuing different religions like Shaiva, Jaina, or Shaiva and Vaishnava. They were together. There was no fight in this country. That's why this pluralism in the name of religion or in language, in cultural diversities, these things we have to live together. And no identity is unimportant. All small identities should be respected. But with those identities should flourish, but not at the cost of the nation's superarching identity of our nation, which the Constitution guarantees. So this is what RSS.
The constitutional dharma must prevail. Is that
I call it Rashtra Dharma.
Rashtra Dharma. Okay. I have another question for you in regard to social media. Dattatreya, the discourse on social media over the last 2-3 years I'm seeing, it's degenerated to vulgarity, filthy abuse of one another. And I'm particularly troubled by, the kind of things that are said about, I'm from the media, about my women colleagues in the media who take a certain political position. Also women actors and women activists, or maybe women politicians. Both men and women are abused. But I find this to be absolutely obnoxious, the levels to which it has descended. What is your view on this? What should be done?
I have the same feeling as
Yeah.
you have. See, trolling and personal criticism, commenting on their personalities, these things are unhealthy practices in our public discourse. It should be totally deplored, disgusting.
Yeah.
Sir, social media has opened up to people many a time because it has become an instrument in everybody's hands and there is no ombudsman or there is no censorship. And it need not be there. I don't recommend it. But at the same time, people who are mature, they should lead a movement to see that filthy languages, obnoxious things, personal comments are not there. And if possible, there should be some curtailing on these things also, because we have to keep our public debate and discourse very healthy, very wholesome, very welcoming thing. Well, men or women, anything. Even see, for example, if there is somebody who is not agreeing with my ideas and views, he is not my enemy. I do not consider him as my enemy. He may be having a different view. This is the essential thing that our nation's culture has always said. There is Shastrartha. That has been our tradition. Dvaita and Advaita, they could be together. You can pursue your ideas. You can comment upon my things. But that doesn't mean that you are my enemy. So that's why it is the responsibility of all the people. And immature people have entered into social media in many cases, if not all. Because they have, suddenly they have got one instrument where they can express everything. But one thing I would like to add, there are two things in this. Please allow me 2 minutes time on this. One,
Yeah.
because you are also from media, our TV debates, panel discussions, they have not set good examples, unfortunately. Because shouting brigades have come and everybody is shouting and nobody wants to hear. If that is happening there, that is the education that people get for the social media also. Number two, about social media, I would like to say here that fringe elements of any view, ideology, organization, party, etc., fringe elements are not the real representatives of any of these things. That's why it is very difficult to discriminate, differentiate fringe elements and serious elements. That is the biggest problem today. That's why the brigade starts pouncing upon others. And that becomes the enjoyment and entertainment, unfortunately. So that's why restraining the fringe elements is also the responsibility of some matured people. So this is what I want.
Getting your message across in regard to what we discussed now, I think is going to be very important, Dattatreyaji, if you want to contain this problem. I'll now take you to terrorism. What is your view in terms of how India and the world has been handling this, and does the RSS have a view on how, globally, you propose to, you have any ideas on?
Bharat has been at the receiving end of terrorism for last some 2 decades or more.
Yeah.
That way, the religious bigotism and attack on in the name of religion, etc., has been there, and that has been our experience for last hundreds of years. Whether you call it terrorism or not, such things are terrorism. Any terrorist organization doesn't call itself as a terrorist organization, and nobody knows what are their demands. They have never published their what do they want to achieve? Is there any this 1, 2, 3, 4? And from whom? From the government, from the people, from the society? We do not know. Creating terror is the only, because there are certain ulterior motives. And sometimes religion is taken as a shelter or an instrument for terrorist activities. It may not be in every case, but in the last 1 or 2 decades, that is also the experience across the world.
Okay.
And what can be the view of an organization like RSS? Because we are an open organization. We want that society should be organized. Society means all people at all levels. So, an open organization organizing society with constructive activities, as I said, so much of service activity, inculcating sanskaras, values, etc. Naturally, the terrorism is the number 1 enemy for any such movement and organization and nation. And over the years, there has been talk of that is ban action about against terrorism. Many countries coming on single platform to fight terrorism. All these things at the international fora we have been hearing and seeing, but how much they have achieved is there for all of us to see. But containing terrorism is possible when it is coupled with religion. The religious heads will have to, without any hesitation, they should declare that in the name of religion, no terrorist activity is permissible. This all religion people have to make it clear, number 1. Number 2, the governments have to take strict actions and the society should support and stand by the government. Many a time people who take action, they have to stand in the court for the offense of human rights violation.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem. When you say that it is human right violation in controlling a government, if it has to control terrorism, there will have to be certain freedom to the police system, security system. But at the same time, people are hand bound and you ask them to act. That is not going to help. So if the terrorism is the enemy of the humanity, then it is for all of us to see that fight against terrorism will have to have these things.
Yeah.
No religion, no question of thing, and terrorists do not have human rights. They may be human beings, but they cannot claim human rights and also engage themselves in the terrorist violent activity. They cannot go together. So this is how we have to view it.
Dattatreyaji, we are the world's largest democracy. We are also the most diverse society in the world. In that context, I want to ask you what you have to say about this tragic development that's taking place in the United States in recent times. That is the deteriorating race relations. it is also a democracy and it has diversity, but I don't think there's any nation in the world as diverse as ours. So if you look at our experience in dealing with pluralism, a diverse community, and you look at what's happening in the US today, the deteriorating race relations, I want to draw you out on that.
Actually, I do not want to comment upon the situations of society in some other nation because it is for them to deal with. But the racial differences, hatred, racial animosity, they are not confined to one sovereign country. That's why we cannot say that it is their internal affair and I do not want to comment. Because it is not the question of within two sections within the American society. Because its echoes and its ramifications will be there elsewhere in the world. So that's why we have to take that into consideration. So in American society, what is now happening or happened in the previous months, it's an unfortunate development if with all these things, great the America's founding fathers, one of the best constitutions they have drafted for the considering the human spirit and human values and human rights. And such country, how they can behave, a section of that country can behave. Number two, they have had all the fights and other things. We all know Abraham Lincoln, the story, civil wars, many things, slaves. Then they came out of those things. And America has developed itself as a nation where it's a crucible of so many differences, diversities, all races, all language. They can, the land of destiny. That's how they, they were declaring themselves, and it was so. But even Swami Vivekananda, when he returned from America, he said how America has developed itself as a nation, a new nation. But they have developed with these modern great values, scientific temperament, and many other things. That's why Swami Vivekananda, like person, also he appreciated the American society and American people. So with this great heritage, with this great background, historic background, American society, if it is practicing, at least some section of the society, if they are practicing racism, it is very, very painful and we cannot accept it. But one thing, the America's society has to deal with it properly, because dismantling of apartheid has taken place years ago in Africa. Slavery was stopped. Color differentiation should not be made a basis for any discrimination. All these things are there, and Martin Luther King and many others. So I think American majority doesn't want this. There may be, I do not know, there may be some vested interests who want to see that these discriminations and differences in the society remain there for their own vested interests. So that's why it is for the American people and American establishment to address these things effectively, because the whole world is looking at America. So that's why it is their responsibility. In this, I would like to say how to live with pluralism and diversity. India is a shining example. I remember there was once Kuldeep Nayarji, he asked Margaret Thatcher after her return from USSR, and Margaret Thatcher advised Gorbachev, when your country is getting dismembered and various diversities you can't keep together, why don't you take the advice of your long-time friend? Gorbachev asked from whom? From India. And how India has remained as a nation, as a culture, as a civilization which plural, diverse faiths and diversities. So this, I think Americans will definitely take this as a great example, and Americans also have set example. I think this is necessary.
Dattatreya ji, before I wind up this conversation with you, one last question for which I would request a quick answer. Climate change, in terms of what we are doing and the whole global situation. What is your take on that? Climate change.
Yeah, this is not an international organization because many international forums have been discussing the climate change. The governments have been and SDGs and etc. These the very many protocols etc. have been drafted in the previous years, and climate change is being addressed. Earth summits are going on. There is an awareness across the world about the ecological things and particularly climate change, global warming, etc. That's a good thing. And even about the water, there is an awareness. But whether it has come to the daily practice, whether it has become the part and parcel of our family social life, this is the thing. Because environmental things are discussing them at the table and passing some resolution is not going to help. No doubt. Government policies, economic development models, all these things are very, very important in deciding the destiny of humanity insofar as environmental issues are concerned. Because economic development model, because of the approach to our flora and fauna, our environmental situation, ecology, these things are very, very important in addressing this issue. That is at one level. Macro level, that is true. Policy level, it's very welcome. That has to take place. But at the micro level, how we inculcate these things as values, because these issues are today not just academic issues, not just economic issues. They are part and parcel of our values of life. I have to live in this environment with nature. That's why I have to live with some minimum needs. I have to live to let live. I have to live with certain discipline. So these things have to be inculcated. That's why it's good that the new syllabus curriculum, they are also being framed with these ideas. And internationally, there is awareness. It's good. There should be more stricter rules, I believe. The COVID pandemic has, in a way, created some awareness about these things, but it should be long-standing. After some vaccine comes, again, if people go back to the original situation, then it is not going to help. And RSS has started one wing called Paryavaran Raksha, that is environment thing. For this very issue, that's why we have to coordinate with the various NGOs and others who are working in the field for the protection of environment, this climate change issues, etc. Number one. And also to see that the younger generation in their daily practices, they pick up these values as values of life. So this is how RSS is addressing the issue at the personal, family and societal level. At the policy and the governmental level, many things are happening, more things are required.
Yeah. Dattatreya ji, I thank you for your patience and answers to many of my questions. I'll come back, but right now I'll just hand it over to Ram Madhav ji, because I think he has there are some questions lined up for you. Ram Madhav ji.
Thank you, Surya Prakash ji and Manya Datta ji. It was a very insightful and a very informative session that we have had today. I thank Surya Prakash ji especially because he has focused the entire conversation only on the RSS and spared all of us in BJP from being dragged into it. So it was more meaningful and more informative because of the focus on RSS. And friends,
Madhav ji is from RSS only. I consider him as RSS.
Friends, you all agree with me that Manya Dattatreya ji was very candid, very forthright, but at the same time, he answered with utmost clarity, and of course, his erudition also came out in his answers. We will have about 10 minutes time for a few questions. If any of you have any questions, either you write it out on in the chat box, or you can have that, use that option of raising your hand. So you please feel free to do that within 10 minutes. As many number of questions as possible, we will take up. Mr. R.L. Francis has a question. Francis, you unmute yourself and ask the question to Mani Dattaji.
Ram Madhav ji, there are many people who have expressed maybe some questions in the chat box also. I do
Yes,
not
yes.
find any question. There are, but however, please look into that also.
Yeah,
Mr.
I see.
Francis.
नमस्कार सर।
Namaste.
सर मैं ये जानना चाहता था कि राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ पिछले 9 दशकों से दलितों और आदिवासियों के बीच में राष्ट्रवाद और हिंदुत्व की भावना को बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ा रहा है, लेकिन पिछले 20 सालों से विशेष करके ट्राइबल बेल्ट के अंदर जो चर्च संगठन है वो ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी के लिए एक अलग धर्म कोड की मान्यता की मांग कर रहे हैं और इस समय चर्च खुलकर सामने आ गया है और जो 2021 में जो जनगणना होगी उसमें ये एक बड़े आंदोलन के रूप में पूरे देश में ये मुद्दा उभरेगा और मैं ये जानना चाहता था कि क्या संघ के पास कोई ऐसी रणनीति है कि वो इस चक्रव्यूह से बाहर निकल पाए, इसका मुकाबला कर सके। धन्यवाद।
फ्रांसिस जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपके प्रश्न के लिए। रणनीति यानी रण है ऐसा मानना पड़ेगा, रण नहीं है तो थोड़ा सा इस विषय के बारे में विचार किया है। देखिए, एक है कि चर्च में when I say church, we know that there are certain elements in the movement there. उन्होंने जिस प्रकार से particularly ट्राइबल एरिया में उनको एक आइडेंटिटी देकर मेन स्ट्रीम हिंदू सोसाइटी से उनको सेपरेट करने का एक बहुत बड़ा षड्यंत्र पिछले कई वर्षों से शतकों से वो करते आए हैं और पर्टिकुलरली ट्राइबल एरिया में उनके प्रेजेंस ये हुआ है। इसके बारे में कई प्रकार के प्रूफ्स है, एविडेंसेस है। आई विल मेंशन ओनली वन एविडेंस। कार्तिक उरांव जी जो कांग्रेस के सांसद थे, उन्होंने इस विषय के बारे में आपने जो उठाया एग्जैक्टली इसी विषय के बारे में उन्होंने 1980 में 83 में श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी जी प्रधानमंत्री थी, कांग्रेस पार्टी के सांसद कार्तिक उरांव जी ने एक लंबा लेटर लिखकर इस विषय के बारे में उन्होंने अपने मत व्यक्त किया। इस चीज को चेक करने के लिए उन्होंने कहा। इसलिए ये केवल आरएसएस के एजेंडा नहीं है, इसमें देश में हित में सोचने वाले सभी लोग इस प्रकार के विचार को रखते आए हैं। तो इसलिए चर्च के तरफ से सेपरेटिज्म को क्रिएट करने का बहुत बड़ा एक षड्यंत्र बहुत जगह पर हुआ है। अब सारना कोड वगैरह के जो झारखंड के एरिया में कर रहे हैं, सारना तो एक पूजा स्थल है, रिलीजन के नाते उसको अभी तक तो कभी जनजाति क्षेत्र में ही उसकी मान्यता ऐसी नहीं थी। वो एक पूजा स्थल है, जैसे मंदिर है, गुरुद्वारा है, वो अलग धर्म कोड चाहते हैं। तो इसलिए हिंदू समाज से छोटे छोटे ग्रुप को अलग अलग करने के एक प्रयत्न, एक साजिश के तहत चर्च ने एक किया है। तो इसलिए जनजाति क्षेत्र में राष्ट्रीयता के आधार पर सोचने वाले बहुत सारे ग्रुप्स भी है, काम कर रहे हैं। उन सब से संघ के कार्यकर्ताओं ने, वनवासी कल्याण आश्रम के, विश्व हिंदू परिषद के कार्यकर्ताओं ने उनसे संपर्क करते हुए इस विषय के बारे में, अभी जनगणना इस वर्ष के थोड़ा देरी से हो गई, इस विषय के बारे में एक जनजागरण करने का कार्य वो प्रारंभ किए हैं, वो करेंगे भी। लेकिन इसमें एक बहुत व्यापक रूप से चर्च की भी उनकी योजना है, वो भी हम जानते हैं। सभी विषय को मैं यहाँ नहीं बताऊंगा। इस विषय के बारे में संघ के स्वयंसेवकों ने उन क्षेत्रों में बहुत जागृति से और आपने जैसे कहा एक रणनीति के तहत काम कर रहे हैं।
धन्यवाद दत्ता जी। We'll take 2 questions in one round. You can answer both the questions together.
Welcome.
Field Marshal P.K. Roy first and followed by para-athlete Dr. Deepa Malik. P.K. Roy sahab, you can unmute and ask.
My question basically comes from the input that you gave on the role of RSS during the emergency. And I had raised this question earlier also during your address at India Foundation. Today we see that RSS, the cadre, is doing tremendous work in uplifting the downtrodden during natural calamities in nation building. But unfortunately, the impression that is being created, the perception that is being created is of negative perception about the RSS. There is a need to do something. I hope your organization is aware of it, and I would like to know what actions you are taking towards this.
Deepa Malik ji, unmute and ask.
Good evening, sir. Happy Dussehra to all. My question is regarding disability sports and role of RSS. Since RSS is involved in a lot of community work and upliftment of the weaker section, I feel sports and disability is a very good medium of empowering people with disabilities. So any specific role RSS has defined to support Divyang sports, and that I see, if yes, that a great synergy, as I am in the role of President of Paralympic Committee of India, and since you are far spread out, and the nature of volunteering and volunteers, Swam Seva Bhav that RSS carries, it can be of great help in spreading and promoting para sports, sir.
Thank you, Deepa ji. Datta ji, your response, please.
About the first question, see, the RSS is doing good work. They are patriots. They are very good, but negative impression is created. But they are very good. Who created this impression? It is because of the RSS work only you got this impression, right? This RSS is doing wonderful work among the depressed community, downtrodden people, etc. These things have also reached you. And same thing, because RSS has taken certain ideological views and stands, and unequivocally, we have been repeatedly saying those things. We have not hesitated to clarify or clear or stand on our ideological views insofar as nation, society, Hindutva are concerned. We were not hesitant because we are not going after power or money. Because of this, what happens? There are certain people who are not happy with this, and there are certain vested interests, unfortunately, several decades in our media and other channels, even the government. RSS has been painted in black, dubbed as something anti-so-and-so, anti-so-and-so. So there is a big list. These things have been refuted by words, by our deeds. We have done it hundreds of times. So it is for the people. Now the thing is nobody is believing. But the thing is that smear campaign goes on. Denigrating RSS goes on because those people feel that their ideological things are now getting relegated to the background and they are defeated in the public affairs of this country. Now, having said this, I will tell you one thing more. Because this negative campaign which goes on, they are having a national and international network also. They have created some literature. There is a band of people who have been doing it. RSS has addressed to these issues, and many of our Swayamsevaks, they are now part and parcel of many think tanks. International connections are also having. Many of our Swayamsevaks are into media, and RSS has its own Prachar Vibhag communication division, and lot of things we have taken up. And during this COVID period itself, more than 5,000 prominent people from various walks of life, they have been contacted online. And just 5 days back, I was interacting with retired diplomats, and all of them were telling about the RSS good work. That means these diplomats are already knowing that RSS is doing good work. Barring one or two, nobody is having an RSS background from their childhood. But still, they were knowing about RSS. That means people know that RSS is doing good work. But unfortunately, when the smear campaign takes place, they should counter it. The good people of the society should stand by the good thing of the society. That is the national duty. And RSS on its own, it has been outreaching to reaching out to various sections of people. We have started campaigns, and you all know 2 years back, Mohan Bhagwat ji addressed the gathering in the national capital for 3 days in Vigyan Bhavan. like this such exercise we have been doing across the country. So that's going on. Of course, negative forces will maybe active for some more time. I think their sun is now setting. There is no problem much. As far as the sports and paras in Olympic etc. is concerned, the RSS Swayamsevaks has started an organization called Saksham. This is addressing any deformities, disabilities, physical, various disabilities. It addresses and their organization, and we are organizing various activities through that forum. And I welcome that this particularly Paralympic sports, etc., sports for the disabled people, such activities. As I was in a ABVP for many years, at least 3 or 4 times during my days in ABVP, we organized sports competitions and literary competitions, particularly for the physically disabled people in Bangalore, in Maharashtra, in many places. This is the part and parcel of our work. We have to do that. Saksham, this organization is doing wonderful work in this field, and I will take the suggestion of yours to them. I will pass it on. We will do something in the days to come.
Thank you, Dattaji. Friends, please don't add any more questions. You have already enough of them. Now we will take questions from Ambassador Sujan Chennai first, followed by Sri L.V. Subramaniam. Ambassador Chennai, unmute and ask, please.
Namaste, Dattatreya ji. Thank you very much for that very enlightening talk. You delivered your remarks with great clarity of thought and expression, and it's actually giving us all fresh direction in terms of what confronts the nation today. My short question to you is, does the nation really require so many holidays? Because I think if we have 1.3, 1.4 billion people working harder with fewer holidays, we will make very rapid progress. So we should have a short list of holidays covering all the major communities. But thereafter, I think we need to have a fresh look at the total number of days that we work in a year. We should be working far more than we do. We should have fewer holidays. We should be working on Saturdays. I advocate a 6-day week, not a 5-day week. Your thoughts, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, second question, please.
Second question.
Namaskar, Dattatreya ji. A very enlightening dialogue that you had. My question is about how the federal structure in the country is coming under a lot of stress. And unlike in the past, these days we find that there is a confrontationist kind of an approach, both on national issues and international issues. How do we tackle with this in the years to come, the days to come? Thank you.
Dattaji, these 2 questions.
As far as 6-day week, sir, we have been working for the last 40 years, a 7-day week. So I totally welcome your thing. That's the thing is, unfortunately, this pandemic has made people work from home, and there is enough holidays people have enjoyed. At least the RSS has no official view about these holidays, etc., which you raised. There is no RSS official stand, but on my personal thing, I feel I am totally with you that number of holidays should be reduced. There should be some national holidays, no doubt, and we can allot for each individual some 10 holidays, etc. As per his needs, he can take it, because this country requires holidays for festivals, etc. Nothing wrong. It should be there, but it should be limited. And 6-day week, 5-day week, etc. This all, see, there are both the sides for arguing. At least one day, you will be reducing the pollution and accidents, and adding half an hour or 1 hour more each day. So we'll compensate that. This is one argument. I'm not telling that this is my argument. See, there are arguments on both sides. However, we should work more, holiday less. I agree with that. And as far as federalism is concerned, this, see, federalism unitary, these things are all constitutional terms. India as a nation, by its DNA, by its very nature, it is a federal mechanism, or we have always been federal in our structures, in our thinking. This is how this nation has developed the civilization. That's why I think, though it is there with the new political arrangements in the constitution, etc., the very thinking of this nation is it is simultaneously two things. It is federal at once and unitary also. That is the wonderful thing of this country. That's why our constitution is not strictly federal, neither it is unitary. All things are not centralized. At the same time, it is not unitary. That's why it is not Union of Indian States. It is not United States of India. So that's why we are a special nation, and accordingly our constitution has been framed. However, if federal values are being eroded, if federal system or sometimes if somebody feels, so cooperative federalism, etc., these things have been discussed in the last couple of years. I think those ideas should be strengthened, and federal values of our nation and in the administration also, they should be respected and honored. If there is any encroachment, if you feel, I have not felt so much as you feel. However, if that is there, it can be addressed, because in an open society, in a democratic society, these things should be discussed in public. A discourse should take place. If the debate takes place, I welcome it. However, honoring the federal structure is essential for the growth and development of our nation as a nation. Even constitutionally, it is essential. But in the name of federalism, people go to the extent of separatism and secessionism. We have also experienced those things in the last 25 years. I can make a list of those things in different parts of the country. That's why over-stressing on federalism should not be a danger to the unity of the country. That's why this balance, fine balance, which is in the constitution, it is wonderfully enshrined, that should be taken care of, it should be honored.
Thank you, Dattaji. We will try to take few more questions quickly. We have already overshot our time. With Dattaji's permission, a few more questions. I know Dattaji also has got other programs, and I see some chief ministers and deputy chief ministers in the audience. They also must be having a lot of work. We will have two questions, Sudhanshu Mittal and S.K. Jayachandra. Sudhanshu ji, start by unmuting. Sudhanshu Mittal ji? Not there. Okay, Mr. S.K. Jayachandra.
Namaskar, Dattatreya ji.
Namaskar.
A very enlightening dialogue indeed. My question is that of late, China has posed two very important challenges to us. The first one is the coronavirus problem, which has caused some kind of a lowering down of the economy. How do you improve the economy now? Number two is the border issues, especially near Ladakh. What is the strategy of RSS, and what should be the strategy of India in order to counter these two problems of coronavirus leading to a disaster of the economy and the resolution of the border issues with China? Thank you.
Mr. Saket Mishra. Mr. Saket Mishra, you are there?
Yes, Ramadhoji. I was just on mute.
Go ahead, please.
Namaskar, Dattaji. Thank you for the talk. My question was that just in terms of today, our political environment is one where everybody is responding to who says something rather than what they say. And is there a role for RSS in evolving at least a consensus on nationalistic issues, security issues, where people can step away from pure politics and take a stance? Thank you.
Mani Dattaji.
Yeah. Thank you. As far as the first China security and economy is concerned, I think we are passing through a very critical juncture at present. About China this morning, in fact, about both the issues, this morning address by Sri Mohan Bhagwat ji has definitely touched upon these issues. About China, he has very clearly has mentioned that how we should improve our situation, reaching out to many other people, making friends on one side, and building our capabilities. Those sort of things are also because China is not the issue or a problem for only in India. Many Asian countries will also suffer the same thing today or tomorrow. That's why India will have to take a leading role in containing China in its ambitions of expansionism and creating trouble in the neighboring countries. So George Fernandez, as defense minister, he had at that time mentioned about China as, in his words, what I appeared in the media, number one enemy. So that means the establishment of this country knows about China's intentions and ambitions well. That's why we have to, the nation's spirit and mood is very much there. Government's intentions are also there, and we all know about it. Capabilities have to be built. Capability doesn't mean only military capability, economic capability. They are, because if you have to take such a powerful country, those capabilities are number one requirement. But at the same time, a psychology has to be created that we can stand on our own and we can do it. This confidence creating is required. Then there is a reaching out to people and having a network across the world. That is also necessary in international fora, which comes under the diplomatic arena. So I do not want to comment upon that. However, the government of the day is well aware of these things and they have been doing it wonderfully. And we should strengthen this government and articulate these things in various fora wherever we can wield our influences. So that is one thing. As for national security, apart from the Chinese issue, internal and external or across the border, RSS has been creating awareness for all these years about the national security. Many of our forums and organizations run by Swayam Sevaks, they have always given the primacy to the national security issues. That's why a lot of activities have been taken up. Not only academic activities, even across the border, the Seema Jagaran Manch of Rashtriya Swayam Sevaks and Swayam Sevaks, they are active round the year for last so many decades. And they are giving useful information to the security informations. They are trying to develop the border areas, rural development, etc. So lot many things. As a social organization, as a civil society organization, we have been doing these things. As far as the economic conditions of this concern, see, the whole world is passing through very difficult times because of the pandemic. So that's why it is very early to say whether this economic situation will be there. However, good rains, good procurement of agricultural producers, and the wonderful confidence, and people have started, see, migrant labor. My headquarters is Lucknow. I know 38 lakh people came to various villages of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh in the month of May, June. 80% of those people have gone back to their workplaces, and that shows that people have now started working. The economy, I hope by the next budget time, there will be some better situation. However, it will take, I think, I'm not an economic expert. However, observing various things, I feel it will take one more or a little more time, 1 more year or a little more time to bring this whole thing on. Resilience of India is really, it is enigmatic. It is wonderful. So that's why resilience in this country is possible because of our nature. We will come back. So I don't just depend upon some feelings, beliefs and all. Economic thing is a hard reality. So we will have to address those things. And here, government's package, 20 lakh crore package, etc. It's also doing, because I have been, from the month of June, I have been touring in different parts of the country. I have seen how these government's programs have reached at least to in some areas to the lower level. So that shows that the people are ready to accept a new situation for rebuilding our economy. In the post-war period, how the Europe and other countries have done, we will have to see how the psychology is developed, how we can bring about newer economic ideas for self-employment, for rural economy, for agricultural economy, cooperative sector. These things are there. Already government is also thinking, and RSS has been doing this morning. Those things were referred to by Mohan Bhagwatji. As far as national security and Saket Mishra's thing, yeah, I've already said, you said non-political people should be there for the discussion. All well-meaning people of the society should come on various such common platforms to discuss about national security. Because national security is an issue that touches upon every section, every individual of the country. So that's why national security, particularly with the external threats about that, the involvement of the role of the government is more prominent there. As far as the internal security is there, societies, organizations, NGOs, well-meaning people, they all will have to play a role. That's why national security should be discussed. I welcome this idea of Saket Mishraji that we can organize some things. Already India Foundation and others have taken up these issues in the past 1 decade or so. I think those things can be replicated in various parts of the country and they should be strengthened.
Yeah, last two questions. The questioners may please be brief and quick. Divya Jyoti Burgohain, followed by Akhilesh Sharma. Divya Jyoti, unmute and ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy Dasara to you all. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your enlightening session on RSS activities. My question to you is, what is your take on the implementation of CA in Assam? Thank you.
Implementation of
Citizenship Amendment Act.
CA.
Oh,
Citizenship Amendment Act, yeah.
Thank you. Akhilesh?
Yeah, hello, Datta.
Yeah, welcome.
Yes, sir. My question is about the Uniform Civil Code. Do you think this is the right time to implement the Uniform Civil Code in this country?
Thank you. Dattaji, these are the two last questions.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Which time will be the best time for the Uniform Civil Code to be implemented? So anytime people will ask this question, I think. Because in 1950, when Constitution included this in the directive principle, that Uniform Civil Code, they have not put any time frame or they have not said which is the best period when it should be implemented. It is for the government of the day to decide when they should take it up, whether this is a good time or not. See, we have to educate people before doing any of these things, because many a time people do not know the whole gamut of things. Holds good same thing about CAA also. See, even about Kashmir, Article 370, many people were not knowing what Article 370 is or 35A was. So that's why educating people is one important thing about these issues. Uniform Civil Code means what? How is it? Actually, the RSS as an organization, we have not said this, but Jansangh and BJP have been saying this. They can't, it's essential also, Uniform Civil Code, because it is there in the directive principle, and that should be implemented. For that, I suggest a proper public education is required. A public debate has to take place across the country so that people know what they are going to get and why it is required, why our constitution has said this. Then the opportune time, the right time will come. So that is why it has to be done in that way. Second is CAA. See, CAA was not against any section, any individual who are Indian citizens. Unfortunately, or with an vested interest with some design, people have raised voice against that in this country and outside also. CAA is not taking away the right of anybody in this country. It is only providing citizenship to the people who are coming from across it. And those who are, because of their religious persecution or persecution of any type, they are to be given citizenship in this country on fast track method. Even if a Muslim coming from Pakistan wants India's citizenship after living here for a particular time, it is not rejected. It need not be rejected. Only thing is there is a time frame. For this, those who are minorities in those countries, Pakistan and Bangladesh, for historic reason, that was the commitment and assurance during those days. So those things have to be honored. And it was simple human right issue for the persecuted people who had come as refugees, who needed a refuge. They needed support. And that has been done. Only thing is, because some people wanted to raise this and they had a design to oppose this, they raised the voice. So that's why the CAA is the essential thing, and nothing. Government has done it, only repackaged it. It was there. Only fast track was necessary because the persecuted people wanted it. So that is why this is not against any individual, any section, any religion who are enjoying their citizenship in this country. Unfortunately, that has been the propaganda by those vested interests. That has to be corrected and rectified now. And I think they will see some sense, and there will be some sense prevail upon them, I hope.
Thank you, Dattaji. Like all good things, this also has to come to an end. Over to you, Surya Prakash, for concluding observations.
Thank you.
Sir, can I ask one question? I am from South Korea.
It is for the organizers. Surya Prakash, you have to decide. I have 2 more minutes time because I have a program at 6:15.
Yes, I'll be very brief. First of all, Dattatreya ji, thank you very much for being with us this evening. And it's been a wonderful conversation we have had with you. I had a lot of questions, and friends on the program had many more questions for you. I was just making a list of all the things that we have touched upon. The core values in the Constitution: democracy, plural society, environment, race relations in America, gender equality, that is, we are talking about it in India, national security, social equality, tribal development, federalism, social media, mainstream media, need for lesser holidays, China, the Indian economy, and so forth, and of course the Uniform Civil Code. Sir, you have been very frank and open in your responses to all these questions. So on behalf of all of us here in this program, I want to sincerely thank you. It's been a great pleasure being here in conversation with you. Of course, you are like all others who went to jail during the emergency. You are very, very special for me because, you know, imagine being in jail for 1.5 years and 19 months, 21 months, not knowing what would happen and whether we would ever get out of dictatorship. I think that was a terrible moment. And there are thousands of you who went to jail and suffered from different political parties. And I am always very thinking about all those who made that sacrifice so that, you know, we would get back our constitution and our democracy. And therefore, you are very, very special for me, like all others who have done that. I once again thank you very much. And I thank the India Foundation, Ram Madhavji, for having organized this on Vijayadashmi Day. And very happy Vijayadashmi to everybody and very best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you for your affectionate and kind words. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Once again, Vijay and Surya Prakash ji, I am ready to sit with you offline also for all your questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.